Hello, English learners, and welcome back to the Best English Podcast. I'm your host, Sophia, and it's truly a great pleasure to be with you all today, sharing ideas that I hope will genuinely change the way you speak English, making it feel more natural, more powerful, and more truly your own, a real part of who you are. Do you ever find yourself feeling a bit awkward, maybe even totally stuck, when you try to speak English, even though you know lots and lots of words? Does that unsure feeling, that moment when your mind just goes blank, leave you feeling down, frustrated, and wishing you could do so much more? Perhaps you're in an important work meeting, the kind where big decisions are made, and a brilliant idea sparks in your head, perfectly clear and ready in your native language. A truly insightful thought. But when you open your mouth to share it in English, the words just vanish. They simply disappear, leaving you with a sudden, complete silence and a wave of regret. Or perhaps you're traveling in a vibrant new city, trying to ask for simple directions to a charming little coffee shop you spotted online, and despite all your hours of lessons, all your vocabulary practice, all your grammar drills, you just can't get the simple question out without a long, frustrating pause, feeling your face get warm with embarrassment, a blush creeping up your neck. If you're really tired of that inner struggle, that constant battle between what you know and what you can express, if you long to speak freely and truly connect with people, to share your thoughts without that heavy feeling of hesitation, that suffocating self-doubt, then please listen closely to today's episode. On Best English Podcast, we're not just going to talk a little bit about it, just touching the surface. We're going to dive in deep, really deep, into how you can finally boost your fluency and help you speak with real confidence and clarity. This isn't just about learning grammar rules or memorizing endless word lists. It's about finding a new part of yourself, a part that speaks English freely and strongly, a part that feels truly at home and comfortable in any conversation, able to express small details, jokes, and deep thoughts. So, whether you're driving to work, stuck in traffic, exercising at the gym, or just relaxing at home with a nice warm cup of coffee, settle in, get comfortable, and let's begin this transformative journey together. Get ready to change how you see speaking English, to break free from old habits and unlock your very best potential. Let's start our talk today with something very important, something I believe will truly make your whole language learning journey feel less stressful and much, much easier, more enjoyable. What does fluency really mean to us as English learners, as people trying hard to connect with others in a new language, to build bridges with words, to share our world? Honestly, I think there's a big, common misunderstanding out there, a myth that holds many learners back. Many people mistakenly believe that to be fluent means you have to speak English absolutely perfectly, without ever making even one small mistake, without a single pause, without even a moment of feeling unsure, without any ums or ahs. They imagine a flawless stream of words, like a perfectly written movie script, where every line is delivered with precision and grace, with no searching for the right phrase, no awkward silences. But let me tell you, as someone who speaks English every single day, who lives and breathes this language, who works with it, and who hears millions of people speak it all over the world, from different backgrounds and walks of life, that idea, that expectation of being perfect, is simply not true at all. It's an unrealistic, even harmful standard to set for yourself. Just take a moment right now to think about your own first language, the language you grew up speaking, the one that feels most natural. Do you speak it perfectly every single time you open your mouth? Do you never stumble over words? Never use a filler word like or like? Never correct yourself in the middle of a sentence? Of course not. That's just being human. It's part of the natural rhythm of thought and speech, the way our brains process ideas in real time. Even native English speakers, and that includes me, along with all my friends, my family, my coworkers, and even the professional news reporters you hear on TV. If you listen closely enough, we pause, we use small filler words, we might trip over a tricky word sometimes, or even fix what we're saying right in the middle of a sentence, rephrasing for clarity. That's just a normal and natural part of any human conversation, any human thought spoken out loud. We are not robots. We are complex thinkers, and our speech shows that complexity, those moments of searching and refining. So, if it's not about being absolutely perfect, then what is true fluency? Fluency is mainly about speaking smoothly, feeling sure of yourself, and talking to others well. It means you can keep a conversation going without constantly getting stuck, without those frustrating, long silences that make your heart pound and your mind race, feeling the pressure. It means you can share your unique ideas, your deepest thoughts, and your true feelings, expressing your personality and your perspective. And very importantly, you can really understand what others are saying to you, grasping their meaning and their intent, even if you happen to make a few small grammar mistakes along the way. The main goal, the real focus, is on getting your message across clearly and feeling comfortable and natural while you do it. It's about connection. When you are truly fluent, that constant, tiring process of translating words in your head from your first language starts to disappear. It's like a heavy burden is lifted, a mental weight taken off your shoulders, freeing up your brain power. Instead, a powerful and freeing change begins to happen. You start to think in English, even if it's just for that specific moment, for that one sentence, for that quick thought. You begin to process ideas directly in the language, without the middle step of translation. That, my friends, is a huge and exciting step forward, a clear sign of real progress, a true breakthrough, and I promise you, it is absolutely possible for you. I clearly remember a listener, Maria, who shared a wonderful story with me recently that perfectly shows this idea, this shift from perfection to communication. Maria, a bright and eager student from Brazil, had spent years studying English in her home country. She was diligent, intelligent, and incredibly dedicated. She had aced all her grammar tests, could read complex articles with ease, devouring English novels, and understood almost every English song lyric, singing along confidently. But the thought of speaking in a real-life situation, face-to-face with a native speaker, filled her with dread. It was a paralyzing fear. She was especially worried about a simple thing: ordering food at a bustling diner in Times Square during her first visit to New York City. The sheer energy of the city, the quick pace of conversations, made her even more anxious. She desperately wanted to sound perfect, to blend in like a local, to show off all her hard work, so she practiced her order countless times in her head, rehearsing every single word, every inflection, every tiny detail of pronunciation. "I would like to have the roasted chicken with a side of mashed potatoes, please." She imagined saying it flawlessly, with a perfect American accent, just like she heard in her favorite movies. But when the waiter, a friendly but very busy man with a thick New York accent, finally came to her table and asked with a quick smile, "What can I get for you, hun?" Her mind completely froze. It went totally blank. All those perfectly practiced words vanished into thin air, leaving her with an empty, hollow feeling. A wave of panic washed over her, making her cheeks flush a deep red, a blush creeping up her neck and ears. She felt a tight knot in her stomach, her heart pounding against her ribs. Finally, feeling a rush of nerves and a strong, desperate need to just get something to eat, to end the awkward silence, she simply pointed at the menu item she wanted and with a shaky, almost whispered voice, managed to say, "Chicken," and "potatoes, please." It felt like a big, embarrassing mistake to her at that moment. She was sure the waiter would laugh, or at least look confused, and she'd have to start all over again, feeling even worse. But then, something amazing happened. The waiter understood her perfectly, without a flicker of confusion. He gave her a kind, reassuring smile, and with a cheerful voice said, "Coming right up, sweetie." He brought her exactly what she wanted, hot and delicious, without a single question or hesitation. Maria told me that in that very moment, as she sat there with her plate of chicken and potatoes, watching the city rush by outside the diner window, the noise of traffic and chatter fading into the background, she had a profound realization. She understood that being clear and successfully getting your message across, even if it's not absolutely perfect, is much, much more important and powerful than trying to be perfect in a way that's impossible. That simple, successful talk, despite her perceived failure in speaking perfectly, gave her more real confidence than any textbook or grammar exercise ever could. It was a real-life lesson in what real communication means, a moment of profound liberation from her own high standards. From that day on, she stopped chasing an impossible perfection and started chasing genuine connection, one conversation at a time. Her journey to true fluency, to feeling comfortable and free, truly began in that noisy New York diner with a plate of chicken and potatoes. Now, let's talk about what often feels like the biggest, most stubborn challenge for many learners who are getting better at English: confidence. This feeling is frequently the largest hidden wall, an invisible barrier that stops you from truly speaking your mind, from sharing your thoughts freely, from letting your personality shine through. You've worked hard studying grammar rules. You've accumulated a good amount of vocabulary. You understand a significant portion of what you hear and read in English. Perhaps you even write well. But then, when it's your turn to speak, you freeze up. It's like an invisible hand clamps over your mouth. You might feel a lump forming in your throat. Your mind suddenly goes utterly empty, a complete blank, and all those English words you know seem to disappear just when you need them most. It's a frustrating and lonely feeling, isn't it? It can make you feel like all your hard work hasn't paid off, that you're somehow failing yourself. Why does this happen so often? Well, there are a few very common and very human reasons for this struggle, reasons that many people share. First, there's the overwhelming fear of making mistakes. This is, without a doubt, the main reason many people hesitate. We worry deeply about sounding silly, about embarrassing ourselves in front of others, about saying something grammatically wrong or using the wrong word. We imagine people judging us, laughing at us, or thinking we're not smart. This fear of being judged, whether it's real or just in our heads, can completely stop us, stopping words before they even form, trapping them inside our minds. Second, there's often not enough active practice. If you primarily practice English passively, by simply listening to podcasts like this one or reading books and articles, your mouth muscles aren't getting the vital workout they need, and your brain isn't quick enough to retrieve words and build sentences on the spot. Speaking is a physical skill, just like playing a musical instrument or participating in a sport. It requires active engagement, constant movement, and repetition to build muscle memory. And third, there's the intense and often tiring process of fixing things in your head as you speak. While you're trying to form a sentence, your brain is simultaneously trying to correct your grammar, recall the perfect vocabulary, and perfect your pronunciation all at the same time. This intense inner editing process can grind your speech to a complete halt, leaving you feeling stuck and quiet, unable to move forward, unable to express yourself naturally. Let me share a very personal story with you, a journey I took when I was learning a new language a few years ago. A beautiful language, but one that was entirely new to me, with completely different sounds, a different alphabet, and entirely different ways of putting words together. I experienced these exact feelings, this profound struggle, this deep frustration. I was in a group class, surrounded by other learners, all eager but also nervous, and I understood almost everything the teacher said. I could read the textbooks pretty well, translating words and understanding complex concepts, feeling quite proud of my reading skills. But when it was time for us to break into pairs and actually speak, my heart would pound so hard, I could feel it in my ears, a loud thumping that drowned out everything else. I would have a brilliant answer or a clever comment ready in my mind, perfectly formed in my first language, clear as a bell. But by the time I painstakingly tried to put it into perfect sentences in the new language, checking every verb tense, every noun agreement, every single tiny detail of pronunciation, the conversation would have already moved on. My partner would have already spoken, or the teacher would have moved to another student, and my moment was gone, lost in my own internal struggle. Or I would just get so utterly frustrated with how slow I was, with my inability to be perfect, that I would simply sigh, slump my shoulders, and say, with a feeling of defeat, "Oh, never mind," and completely give up on speaking for that moment. It was this constant, never-ending push to be perfect, this deep-seated fear of any small mistake that made me completely silent, unable to join in, unable to truly connect with my classmates or the teacher. It wasn't that I didn't know the language, it was that I was profoundly afraid to use it imperfectly. I was my own biggest problem, my own biggest barrier, holding myself captive. And that, my friends, is the big moment of understanding, the important breakthrough that I want you to experience. To truly gain confidence in speaking English, you absolutely must accept that you won't be perfect. This is not just a nice thought, a comforting idea. It's a basic, fundamental change in how you think about language learning, a shift in your entire approach. Think about learning to speak English like learning to ride a bicycle. When you first hop on a bike, do you ride perfectly on your very first try, effortlessly gliding down the street, hands off the handlebars, performing tricks? No, of course not. You wobble, you might fall a few times, perhaps you even scrape your knee. You might feel clumsy and unsure, maybe even a little silly, but you don't give up. But what do? You get back on, you try again, and with each attempt, you get a little steadier, a little faster, until one day you're just riding effortlessly, not even thinking about the act of balancing anymore. You're simply enjoying the ride, feeling the wind in your hair, the sun on your face, the freedom of movement. So, my first practical and powerful tip for you today is this: focus on talking, not on being perfect. The very next time you are about to speak English, make your main goal simply to communicate, to get your message across, to share your idea, not to achieve absolute perfection. Just try to say what you mean. Even if it's a bit messy, even if you use simpler words, or make a small grammar mistake. If the other person understands you, you have succeeded. That is the win. That is the true victory, the moment of connection. This change in your thinking, this liberation from the heavy pressure of perfection, will feel incredibly good, like a weight has been lifted from your shoulders, allowing you to breathe freely. Start by saying anything, even if it's just a simple, "Hello, how are you?" to a coworker, or describing your morning coffee out loud to yourself as you pour it. "Ah, this coffee smells so good. It's exactly what I needed. I need to add milk now. Yes, just a little bit, maybe a spoonful of sugar." The basic goal is simply to get the words out of your mouth, to build that important muscle memory, to break the silence, to start the flow, to get comfortable with your own voice in English. I also remember a young man named Carlos from Texas. Carlos was really smart in English class, always getting top grades on tests and writing excellent essays. His written English was truly impressive, but he was incredibly shy about speaking. He told me he would practice sentences for minutes in his head before daring to say them out loud, going over them again and again, checking every detail, every possible error. And by then, the conversation had always moved on. His moment was lost, slipped away in his own self-doubt. He was so afraid of saying a word wrong or using the wrong tense, convinced everyone would notice and judge him harshly, thinking less of him. One day, I challenged him to just say "good morning" to every person he saw on campus, no matter what. It seemed like such a small, simple task. He started small, just a quiet, almost whispered, "good morning," barely audible, his eyes often looking down. Then, he gradually added, "How are you?" Even if he stumbled over the words, or if his voice cracked a little with nerves, he kept going. Slowly, his fear began to get smaller, like a shrinking shadow, moving away from him, losing its power. He realized that most people were just happy to be greeted, and they didn't judge his slight accent or occasional pause. In fact, many smiled back warmly, and some even started short conversations with him, asking about his day. By focusing on the act of talking, on the simple gesture of communication, even with basic phrases, he started to build a base of confidence that allowed him to eventually tackle more complex talks, like asking for help with a project from a professor or sharing his opinion in a class discussion. His fluency didn't come from perfect grammar, but from trying consistently and bravely to communicate, one simple greeting at a time. It was a testament to the power of small, consistent steps, building confidence brick by brick. So, with confidence now firmly in place as our base, like a strong foundation for a house, providing stability and support, let's now turn our attention to clarity. Speaking clearly means that the person listening to you can understand your message without any trouble, without having to strain to hear or guess what you mean. They should grasp your meaning easily and naturally, without effort. This involves a few interconnected parts: how you say your words, which we call your pronunciation, how your voice goes up and down, which is your intonation, and how you use words and phrases well, choosing the right ones for the right moment. Each part is very important in how well your message is received and understood, contributing to the overall effectiveness of your communication. Let's explore a common pronunciation challenge that many intermediate learners often face: the star sound. This sound, or sounds very similar to it, simply do not exist in many other languages, which makes it quite tricky for learners to master. It requires a new muscle memory for your tongue, a new way of positioning your mouth. For the voiceless th, which you hear in words like think, through, or bath, here's how to make it. Gently place the very tip of your tongue right between your front teeth, allowing it to stick out just a tiny bit. It should feel relaxed, not tense or forced. Then, push air out through that small space between your tongue and your teeth. You should feel no buzzing in your throat when you touch it with your fingers. It's purely air passing through, a soft whisper of air. Now, try listening carefully and repeating after me, focusing closely on how your tongue is placed and how the air flows. Think, thanks, birthday, south. Did you feel that air gently pass through? Excellent. Now for the voiced th, which you hear in words like this, that, they, or mother. The tongue position is exactly the same as the voiceless th. Your tongue tip goes between your front teeth. But this time, when you push the air out, you also make your vocal cords vibrate. You should feel a distinct buzzing sensation in your throat if you touch it. It's almost like a soft zzz sound, but with your tongue firmly between your teeth. Listen and repeat, truly feeling that vibration in your throat. This, that, they, brother, father. It might feel a little strange or even like you're sticking your tongue out too much at first, feeling a bit awkward, but that is perfectly normal and absolutely okay. Just keep practicing slowly and carefully. The more you do it, the more natural it will feel, like any new physical skill you learn, like playing a new chord on a guitar. I had a wonderful student from Japan, Kenji, who for a long time would consistently say, "thank you," instead of "thank you." While most people understood what he meant, it occasionally caused a slight moment of hesitation or required them to listen a second time just to confirm, which sometimes made Kenji feel a tiny bit less confident. He really wanted to make that th sound correctly, to feel more natural, more integrated into conversations. We decided to work on that tricky th sound for just a few minutes during each of our lessons. We'd practice it by itself, making the sound in isolation, then in words, then in short phrases, building up gradually, step by step. One day, he arrived for class, absolutely beaming with joy, his face lit up like a Christmas tree, his eyes sparkling. "Sophia," he called out, almost shouting with excitement. "I finally did it." I was at the grocery store, and when the cashier gave me my change, I remembered to put my tongue out just like you showed me, and I said, "Thank you." And she just immediately said, "You're welcome," without any pause or confused look. It felt so natural and smooth. That small but important change in how he made that one sound, the moment he truly mastered that specific articulation, made a huge and good difference to how confident he felt in all his everyday talks. It truly showed how focused practice on even a single sound helps unlock greater fluency and ease. Another common challenge is the difference between the R and L sounds, especially for speakers of Asian languages. I remember Ling, a student from China who often mixed up words like right and light or red and lead. This could sometimes lead to amusing but also confusing moments. Once, she tried to tell her friend she was going to read a book, but it sounded like she was going to lead a book, which made her friend giggle, and Ling feel a bit embarrassed, a blush creeping up her neck. We practiced by focusing on how the tongue moves. For L, the tip of the tongue touches the roof of the mouth behind the front teeth, almost like a little tap, while for R, the tongue pulls back into the middle of the mouth and doesn't touch anything, almost like a growl, a slight tension in the back of the tongue. We'd say pairs of words, like rice and lice, road and load, slowly at first, really exaggerating the tongue movement, feeling the difference, then faster, trying to make it automatic. Ling would record herself and listen back. giggling at her mistakes but determined to get better. She even started saying, "Red Lori, yellow Lori," as a tongue twister to herself in the mirror, making funny faces as she practiced. After weeks of regular, dedicated practice, she called me excitedly, her voice full of triumph. "Sophia, I just ordered fried rice at a restaurant, and they gave me rice, not lice." It was a small win, a moment of clear success, but it showed how practicing specific sounds really makes your communication clearer and gives you more confidence, making those everyday interactions smoother and more enjoyable. So, my next helpful tip for you is to copy and say it big, then make it smooth. Choose a short audio part from an English podcast, a video online from someone you like watching, a news story, or even a line from your favorite TV show or movie. Listen carefully to a short sentence or two, paying attention to every sound. Then, immediately try to speak along with the person talking, copying their rhythm, their speed, and how their voice goes up and down as closely as you possibly can. Don't get too caught up worrying about understanding every single word at this point. Your main focus should be on matching the sounds and the natural way it flows, the musicality of the language. This powerful practice builds muscle memory for your mouth, trains your ear to the music of English, and helps you naturally learn real, natural speech patterns without even knowing it, almost unconsciously. Record yourself speaking, then listen back and compare your recording to the original. You'll be truly amazed at how quickly you can find and fix even small differences in your speech, refining your sounds. Remember, this exercise is not about sounding fake. It's about really training your mouth and your ears to speak natural English, to make it feel effortless. Intonation is simply how your voice goes up and down when you speak. It's like the song or the music of English, and it carries a huge amount of meaning. It's the feeling behind your words, the unspoken message that tells your listener if you're asking a question, expressing surprise, or simply stating a fact. It adds layers of nuance to your communication. Sometimes, just changing how your voice goes up or down can completely change what you mean, even if you use the exact same words. Let's take a very simple sentence. You're coming to the party. If your voice goes down at the end, it sounds like a plain statement of fact, like you are telling someone that they are indeed coming to the party. It's definitive, a piece of information, a declaration. But if your voice goes up at the end, it sounds like a real question. Maybe you are surprised or excited, or just asking to make sure, seeking confirmation. Do you hear that important difference? The words themselves are exactly the same, but how your voice moves changes absolutely everything. Mastering intonation will make your speech sound much more natural, much more interesting for the person listening to you, and most importantly, it will help you show your true feelings and what you mean correctly, avoiding misunderstandings and making your conversations flow more smoothly. I clearly remember a time when a friend of mine, Sarah, was talking to a new international coworker, Javier, from a country where voice patterns are quite different from English. Sarah casually asked Javier, "You finished the report?" But her voice stayed flat and went down at the end, as if she were just stating a fact, a simple observation. Javier looked quite confused, his forehead wrinkled, his eyes showing a puzzled look, thinking it was just a statement, as if Sarah was telling him she had finished the report, and he wondered why she was being told something so obvious. He paused, unsure what to say back, creating a brief, awkward silence that stretched between them, a moment of misconnection. If Sarah had said, "You finished the report?" with a clear rising intonation, it would have immediately shown that it was a question, an inquiry, and avoided that short, awkward moment of not understanding. It was a subtle difference in sound, a mere shift in vocal pitch, but it truly highlighted how incredibly powerful intonations is in getting your exact meaning across in English, and how it can affect how smoothly a conversation flows, how easily people connect. Another listener, Anna, shared her struggle with sounding flat or boring when she spoke English. She felt like her English sounded like a robot, even though her grammar was good and her vocabulary was rich. She understood everything she read and heard, but her own voice lacked life, lacked expression. She realized that in her own language, the voice didn't go up and down as much. It was more monotone, which was perfectly normal and expressive there, but not in English. We worked on practicing common ways to show feelings. Really? With a rising, surprised tone, almost like a little gasp of wonder. That's great! With an excited, falling tone, full of genuine enthusiasm and joy. Or, are you serious? With a sharp, rising tone, showing disbelief or demanding confirmation. She started paying attention to how native speakers showed excitement, doubt, or agreement, not just what words they used, but how they sang them, how their voices danced, how they used pitch to convey emotion. Slowly, her English began to sound more alive, more human, more engaging. She told me that people started talking back to her with more warmth and understanding, and her conversations became much more lively and interesting. She felt like she was truly connecting with people, not just exchanging information. So, my helpful tip here is to listen for the ups and downs in questions and statements. In general, questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no, like "Are you happy?" or "Is it raining?" often have your voice go up at the very end. This tells the listener you're looking for an answer, an affirmation. Statements, on the other hand, and questions that start with who, what, where, when, why, how, like "Who are you?" or "What time is it?" usually have your voice go down at the end. This tells the listener you're done with your thought or you're asking for specific information. Try to listen carefully for these patterns in the English conversations you hear, whether it's on TV, in movies, or in real life, and then try to copy them when you practice. Make them big at first to really feel your voice move, even if it feels a bit theatrical or exaggerated. The exaggeration helps build the muscle memory and makes the pattern clearer in your mind. For truly clear and natural English communication, it's not just about knowing a lot of single words. While knowing many words is very important, a strong vocabulary is a great asset. It's even more important to understand how words naturally fit together in common phrases, and to choose the right way to say things for different situations. This is where the idea of word groups or chunks of language becomes incredibly useful, almost like pre-built Lego blocks for your sentences, ready to snap together. Do you remember our episode a while back, where we talked about daily English essentials? Those common phrases you hear almost every day, the basic parts of natural conversation that make speech flow effortlessly. Well, I had a listener, David, who messaged me recently with a fantastic story that perfectly shows this point. He said he listened to that episode and really made a careful effort to use some of those phrases in his daily talks. One of the phrases we talked about was "figure out," which means to understand or solve something. David told me he was at a big electronics store trying to buy a new computer, a really important purchase for his work, and he needed some help from the salesperson. He was feeling quite nervous, his palms a little sweaty, his heart beating a bit faster, as it was a big purchase, and he wanted to make sure he understood everything clearly, all the technical details. but he remembered our episode and the phrase, figure out. Instead of just saying, I don't understand, which is perfectly okay, but can sometimes sound a bit direct or even sudden, he bravely went up to the salesperson and, taking a deep breath, asked, "Excuse me, I'm trying to figure out which laptop is best for my work. Can you help me?" He told me the salesperson understood him right away, gave him a warm, friendly smile, and spent a long time kindly explaining all the different choices and features using clear and helpful language. David felt such a wonderful boost of confidence after that talk. He realized he had used a natural-sounding phrase, one that native speakers use all the time, and it directly helped him get the information he needed very clearly and easily. This story shows us that it's not just about knowing single words. It's about actively using those word groups in real situations. This way of learning makes your English sound so much more natural, more real, and truly more effective. Another student, Mariah, was having trouble sounding natural when she talked about her feelings. She knew words like happy and sad, but her sentences felt stiff, like they were from a book, lacking true emotion and spontaneity. She wanted to express herself more vividly, to truly convey the depth of her feelings. We talked about common phrases and idioms for emotions. Instead of saying, "I am very happy," which is correct but a bit plain, she learned, "I'm over the moon," or "I'm on cloud 9. These mean extremely happy, but with a much more vibrant and natural feel, adding a touch of color to her speech. Instead of "I am sad," she learned "I'm feeling down" or "I'm a bit blue." She started practicing these phrases, first to herself in front of a mirror, trying out the expressions and feeling how they sounded, then with her language exchange partner, incorporating them into their conversations. Soon, her talks became much more expressive and interesting. She told me, "Sophia, when I say I'm over the moon, people smile. They understand my feeling better than just every happy." This shows how learning word groups can add depth and color to how you talk, making your conversations truly come alive and feel more authentic, more like you. So, my helpful tip is to learn word groups, not just single words. When you learn new words, always try to learn them in phrases or chunks whenever you possibly can. For example, instead of just learning agree, learn the full ways people say it, like "I totally agree," or "I couldn't agree more," or "I agree with you." These word groups are exactly how native speakers naturally use the language in everyday talks. They flow easily and will save you valuable time and mental effort when you're trying to build sentences in your head because you're recalling a whole phrase, not assembling it word by word. Some common and very useful word groups to start practicing right away include "I'm looking forward to," as in, "I'm looking forward to the weekend," or "I'm looking forward to hearing from you," or mater. What do you think about, like, "What do you think about this new movie?" Or, "What do you think about going out tonight?" Could you please tell me? For example, could you please tell me where the closest train station is? Or, could you please tell me how to get there? It sounds like a good idea. I totally agree. Or its opposite, I don't really agree. No problem at all. And, by the way, for smoothly bringing up a new topic in conversation, try to use these in your daily speaking. Make a conscious effort to fit them into your conversations throughout the week, even if it feels a little forced at first. The more you use them, the more natural they'll become. All right, English learners, we've talked about what fluency means and why we sometimes feel unsure. We've explored strategies for clarity, how to make your sounds clear, how to use the music of English, and how to build with word groups, Now, let's get to the how. How do you regularly, effectively, and enjoyably practice to get this great confidence and clarity in your everyday life? This is where our plans turn into real actions, where the rubber meets the road, where your hard work truly pays off, and you start seeing tangible results. I once had a student, Lee Wei, who truly believed he had absolutely no time, not even a single extra moment, to practice speaking English. He worked incredibly long hours at his job, often staying late, had a very busy family life with young children who needed his attention, and felt completely exhausted by the end of each day. He would often tell me, with a sigh of deep fatigue, "Sophia, by the time I get home, my brain is fried. I just want to rest. I have no energy left for English, even though I want to improve." I understood his situation perfectly. The demands of his life were immense, a heavy load. But I also knew that even small, regular efforts, if done smartly and consistently, could make a huge difference. So I suggested he try something remarkably simple: talking to himself during his daily bus ride to work, which was about 20 minutes each way. At first, he thought it sounded a bit strange and awkward to talk to himself out loud on a public bus, even quietly, imagining curious glances from other passengers, feeling a little self-conscious. But he decided to give it a real try, a secret experiment. He started simply by describing what he saw out the window. "I see a red car, a tall building, the bus is stopping." He would whisper these observations to himself, almost like a running commentary on his surroundings, a private narration. Soon enough, he progressed to narrating his thoughts, planning his day in English. "Okay, first I need to check my emails, then prepare for the meeting with Mr. Johnson, and then I'll grab lunch at the deli." Or even playfully pretending to have simple conversations with himself, imagining what he'd say to his boss or a client, rehearsing polite phrases or questions. After just a few weeks of this regular, quiet practice, he noticed a big and surprising difference in how quickly he could form sentences and how much more natural his spoken English felt. He had successfully turned his normally passive travel time into active English practice, a hidden gem of learning, and that small, smart change made all the difference in his confidence and fluency. So, the first powerful way to practice is to talk to yourself. Out loud, really. This is truly one of the most effective and often forgotten ways to practice. And best of all, it's completely free and ready for you anytime, anywhere. You don't need a partner, a special app, or a quiet room. You just need your voice and your thoughts. Narrate your daily tasks. I'm making a cup of coffee now. First, I boil the water, then I add the instant coffee powder, and then I stir it well. It smells so good. I think I'll add a little sugar today. Describe what you see outside your window. The trees are so green today, and the sky is a perfect blue. I see a dog walking with its owner, or even just make up a story in your head, then say it out loud. It might feel a little silly at first, a bit unusual, but it is incredibly good for speaking faster, stopping less, and getting your mouth and tongue used to making English sounds smoothly. It helps you become fluent from the inside out, building that automaticity, that effortless flow of words. Next, you absolutely must try shadowing. This method is a complete game changer for fluency, and it's how many professional interpreters and actors train to mimic speech patterns perfectly, to truly embody the sound of a language. Find an English audio you truly enjoy. It could be a part of this very podcast, a short video online from someone you like watching, a news report, or a scene from your favorite TV show or movie. Listen carefully to a short sentence or two. paying attention to every sound, every pause, every rise and fall of the voice. Then, immediately try to speak along with the original speaker, copying their rhythm, their speed, and their intonation as closely as you possibly can. Don't get too caught up worrying about understanding every single word at this stage. Your main focus should be on matching the sounds and the natural flow, the melody of the language. This powerful practice builds muscle memory for your mouth, trains your ear to the music of English, and helps you naturally learn real natural speech patterns without even knowing it, almost unconsciously. I had a student named Jessica who used shadowing specifically to improve her presentation skills. She was a brilliant marketing professional, full of innovative ideas, but her English presentations felt a bit stiff, lacking the natural flow and emphasis that would truly captivate her audience. She wanted to sound more engaging, more persuasive. She would shadow TED Talk speakers, not just repeating their words, but focusing intently on their pauses, their emphasis, how they use their vocal variety to highlight key points, and even their breathing patterns. She would practice specific sentences over and over until she could match the speaker's delivery, their confidence, their passion. After a few months of this dedicated practice, her colleagues noticed a big improvement in how confident she sounded and how interesting and engaging her presentations were. She wasn't just speaking English, she was performing it with skill, truly connecting with her listeners on an emotional level, inspiring them with her ideas. Then, there's the incredibly valuable power of recording and listening, basically, being your own teacher. As I mentioned earlier, recording yourself speaking is an incredibly powerful diagnostic tool for your progress. It gives you an objective view of your own speech, allowing you to hear yourself as others hear you. Use your phone's voice recorder. It's right there in your pocket, ready to go. Pick a simple topic, something like, describe your favorite hobby, or what did you do yesterday? Component placement, and just talk freely for 1 to 2 minutes. Don't stop, just keep talking, even if you stumble or use filler words. The goal is to keep the flow of speech going, to push through the hesitation. Then, take the time to listen back to your recording. You will naturally hear your own mistakes, notice where you pause too much, or where your pronunciation isn't quite clear. You might notice repetitive phrases or awkward sentence structures that you weren't aware of before. Getting this feedback right away is super helpful for knowing exactly what to work on, allowing you to target your practice. Please, do not be too hard on yourself when you listen. Simply notice what happened, find areas where you can grow, and learn from what you hear, treating yourself with the same patience you'd offer a friend. I had a student named Sam who used this method all the time. He noticed he always said, "I think that," at the beginning of every sentence, almost like a verbal tic, making his speech a bit predictable and less dynamic. By recording himself, he became aware of this habit and then consciously started using different ways to begin his sentences, like, in my opinion, Zrania, it seems to me, Zrania, or I believe that. This small change, discovered through self-recording, made his speech sound much more advanced and natural, adding variety and sophistication that truly impressed his colleagues. Fourth, make an effort to find people to practice speaking with, even other learners. If you can find someone to talk with, even for just 10 to 15 minutes a few times a week, your fluency will shoot up dramatically. This could be someone you connect with online for language exchange. There are many great apps for this, like Tandem or HelloTalk, where you can find partners from all over the world, eager to practice. Or a friend who is also learning English, or, if it's possible for you, a dedicated English teacher. Don't worry if your practice partner isn't a native speaker. Practicing with another learner is still very helpful because it forces you to speak and react in real conversations, building that important ability to speak freely and spontaneously without the pressure of perfect native fluency. Elena, another one of my listeners, found an online language partner from Brazil who was also learning English. They decided to do 30-minute video calls twice a week, even setting a recurring reminder on their phones so they wouldn't forget, making it a firm commitment. They weren't perfect, they still made mistakes, and sometimes searched for words, but they encouraged each other, corrected each other gently and kindly, and celebrated every small improvement together. This regular low-pressure talking was key to how much they improved, turning a solitary learning journey into a shared, supportive adventure. They built a real friendship through language, motivating each other every step of the way. Finally, and this is a big one, use English for real-life tasks. The more you bring English into your daily life for actual reasons, for genuine communication, for practical needs, the more natural and comfortable it will become. Don't just study it, live it. Try ordering food in English when you're at a restaurant, even if you just point and say, "The chicken, please." Ask for directions if you're in an English-speaking area, even if you just say, "Excuse me, where's the station?" Actively join an online English-speaking group, a book club or a hobby group, or even try thinking about your shopping list in English while you're at the grocery store. Okay, I need milk, bread, and some fresh fruit. Oh, and coffee. Don't forget the coffee. Every single small interaction builds your confidence and really makes your learning stronger, turning English into a useful tool, a part of your everyday life, not just a school subject. I had a student named Omar who loved cooking. It was his passion, his escape. He found an online English cooking class, a virtual community of food lovers from around the world. He had to listen to instructions in English, ask questions in English, and describe his cooking process to the teacher and other students. "I'm sautéing the onions now until they are golden brown, then I'll add the garlic." It was challenging. Sometimes he had to look up words like simmer or dice. But because it was something he loved, he stuck with it, driven by his passion, and his practical everyday English improved greatly. He learned words like sauté, dice, and simmer in a real, meaningful way, directly connected to his passion, making the learning enjoyable and incredibly effective. He even started watching English cooking shows, understanding them effortlessly. Finally, and I truly believe this is the most important point of all, the very foundation upon which all your other efforts will stand and flourish, determining your long-term success, your mindset. Learning any new language, especially getting truly comfortable with speaking it, is a continuous journey. It's not a quick race to the finish line where you suddenly become fluent overnight, like magic with a flick of a switch. Instead, it's like a long walk, a winding path, sometimes uphill, sometimes downhill, sometimes through dense fog. And there will naturally be both good days when everything feels easy and flows smoothly, and tough days when you feel stuck, frustrated, or like you're not getting anywhere at all. This is normal, a universal part of any deep learning process. Please, please do not be too hard on yourself. This is so incredibly important for your long-term success and for you to truly enjoy the learning process, to keep that spark alive. Instead, actively celebrate every single small win, every new word or phrase you manage to use correctly, every time you successfully keep a conversation going for a few minutes, every single moment you feel even a tiny bit more confident than you did yesterday. These small, steady wins, these little moments of success, add up to huge, meaningful progress over time. They are the fuel for your journey, the little sparks that keep your motivation burning bright, even on those tough days when you feel like giving up. I often share the inspiring story of a wonderful, very smart student named Elena. Elena was extremely bright and liked everything to be perfect. She was an academic star in her own language, always precise and articulate, a true master of her native tongue, able to express the most complex ideas with ease. But when it came to English, she would get so incredibly upset with herself if she couldn't perfectly explain a complex idea or answer quickly enough in a conversation. She would often say to me, with a sigh of deep sadness, her shoulders slumping, her eyes downcast, "Sophia, I know it perfectly well in my head. The answer is right there, clear as day, but it just doesn't come out smoothly. It's like my brain and my mouth aren't connected, like there's a thick, impenetrable wall between them." I understood her struggle deeply. It was a familiar frustration I had seen in many bright students, and even experienced myself during my own language learning. I gently told her to change her focus and consciously celebrate her small wins. Instead of dwelling on what she couldn't do perfectly, we started focusing on what she did achieve, no matter how small. I'd say, "Elena, you managed to explain that difficult idea, even with a few pauses and a little searching for words. That's absolutely fantastic progress. You got your message across." Or, "You used that new word group naturally in that sentence." What a great job, Elena. She started keeping a small mental list, almost like a little score, of these successes, no matter how tiny they seemed. She celebrated using a new verb phrase, or correctly asking a question, or simply looking someone in the eye while speaking without looking away in embarrassment. Slowly but surely, by regularly focusing on her progress and being much kinder and more understanding to herself, that harsh self-criticism started to disappear, like a heavy cloud lifting from her mind, revealing sunshine, and her confidence grew a lot, blossoming beautifully. She truly realized that the process of learning is often messy, full of trying and sometimes failing, and that, she understood, is perfectly okay. It's not a sign of failure, but a natural, essential part of how we grow, how we truly master anything complex. Another listener, Mark from California, shared a story of almost giving up. He felt completely overwhelmed by how many English words and grammar rules there were. He'd spend hours studying flashcards and grammar books, trying to memorize everything, feeling like he had to absorb an entire library, but then feel defeated when he couldn't remember a word in conversation or when he mixed up verb tenses in a simple sentence. He was ready to quit, feeling like it was just too much, an impossible task, a mountain too high to climb. I encouraged him to change his way of thinking from "I must know everything" to "I will learn one new thing today and use it." This was a huge shift for him, a complete change in perspective. He started focusing on just one new phrase or one specific grammar point each day. He would actively look for chances to use it, even if it was just in a short sentence to himself or a quick chat with a colleague during a coffee break. This small, easy-to-manage goal, combined with celebrating each time he used it successfully, brought back his joy in learning, rekindling his passion. He realized that consistency and small victories were more powerful than trying to learn the entire language all at once. He didn't give up, and now he's having full, flowing conversations, one small win at a time, building his fluency brick by brick, day by day, seeing the structure grow. His journey reminds us that every little step forward, no matter how small, is a step worth celebrating, a sign of progress on your incredible path. So, here's your personal challenge for this coming week, dear listener. Pick just one simple way to practice from today's episode. Whether it's talking to yourself out loud during your commute, trying shadowing for just 5 minutes while listening to your favorite English song, or focusing hard on practicing one specific sound or word group that we talked about. Make a firm promise to practice it regularly for just 5 to 10 minutes every single day. I promise you, you'll be truly amazed at the real difference it makes in your confidence and how clearly you speak English. These small steps, taken regularly, lead to incredible progress, transforming your English from something you study to something you truly do, something you live and breathe. Speaking English with real confidence and clarity is not a far-off, impossible dream that only a few special people can reach. It is a skill you can absolutely learn, one that you can definitely develop with regular, smart practice, and, most importantly, a true willingness to be imperfect and to truly enjoy every single step of your language learning journey. Remember, true fluency is mainly about talking well and making real connections with others, sharing your authentic self, your unique perspective, not about having perfect grammar or a perfect accent. Trust the knowledge you already have, be brave and bold with your words, and keep practicing. Every word you speak, every conversation you have, every connection you make is a victory. Thank you so much for joining me today on the Best English Podcast. I truly hope this very detailed episode has given you useful ideas, practical ways to practice, and a new reason to feel excited about improving your English fluency. Keep practicing, keep learning, and I'll talk to you all again very, very soon.